Welcome to the Thursday, December 18th, 2025, All-Member Poverty and Homelessness Board meeting. For our agenda review, we have public comment. Before we approve the
recording in progress.
That's okay. My name is Sean Murphy, and I'm the chair. For the agenda review, we have public comment. The consent agenda, we would like to amend the consent agenda to add the severe weather response update. to the agenda, a membership update, and then we'll discuss point in time count, the continuum of care NOFO and HMIS website overview, the work group strategies, committee updates, and then the wrap up. All right. And then with that, if we could take a moment for the committee members to introduce themselves, and we'll start at the table and then we'll go online. You want to go, Commissioner Farr?
Pat Farr, I'm a voting member representing the Poverty and Homelessness Board and the Lane County Board of Commissioners.
Mike Fleck with Community Sharing and a voting member.
Jack Boyson with St. Vincent de Paul and not a voting member.
Amanda Borda, Lane County staff.
James Ewell, Lane County staff.
Carly, do you want to help me with the online? Okay.
I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Maggie Bagan, lived experience from Florence.
Thank you, Maggie.
Matthias Smith, youth representative, voting member.
Thank you, Matthias.
Heather Quasanza. Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Locks, Executive Director for Hope and Safety Alliance, voting member.
Thank you. Go.
Heather Quasanza, voting member, Community Supported Shelters, Executive Director.
Thank you, Heather.
Carl Perez, Homes for Good, non-voting member.
Thank you.
Sheila Wagner, Oregon Department of Human Services, non-voting member.
Thank you.
I'm Avery Pearson from South Willamette Solutions, and I'm a voting member.
Thank you.
And Jacques, and I am I have a head cold and a voting member.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alexa Benson. I'm a rural outreach person from City of Veneta. This is my first meeting, and I'm not sure if I'm even a voting member.
That's okay. Thanks for introducing yourself, Alexa, and you are on the agenda today. And a member is a member whether you vote non-voting and voting. All right, and I think we have gotten everyone. Thank you. All right, do we have anything in the K for public comment? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amendment to add the severe weather response to the consent agenda?
This is Heather.
Thank you, Heather. Do I have a second?
Second. This is Karen, Mayor of Eugene.
Thank you. The severe weather, that's why we have to have an amendment, because we're adding it right now to have the discussion.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, it passes unanimously. All right. Do we want to go ahead and start with the severe weather? Sure. Okay. All right, so Brianna is going to give us the update on the severe weather response.
Hi, all. Thank you. Brianna Rogers, she, her pronouns, program staff with Lane County Housing. Just wanted to give an update that Lane County staff are in cooperative calls. I think they're being set up daily now to support with the severe weather response. From that call today, Red Cross and local volunteers are standing up a shelter right now in the upper McKenzie area. The coast is expected to be hit hard, and I have not heard of any shelter updates or requests at this time, requests for shelter. Red Cross did request mental health resources for those who are losing their housing, and because their resources are currently tapped. And they were connected with Lane County Public Health and Behavioral Health for resources and the Lane County Crisis Response Team as well. We are going to continue to stay in those cooperative calls and talking with our community partners and local communities to assess the shelter needs across the different regions and areas. And then the Lane County Emergency Management has been sending out daily emails on weather updates, resources, sheltering updates, things like that. And those are going to be forwarded daily as they continue to the Severe Weather Collaborative. James is going to be emailing those out or forwarding those out. And then we are going to monitor what response is needed. Right now, James is going to be the lead, and then into the weekend and over next week, Kate Budd is going to be taking the lead on weathering or sheltering, I guess, if anything does come up, and just staying in close coordination with what the needs are. Happy to take questions.
Any questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair. That's a great report, Brianna. We just concluded the emergency responders meeting, the all points group, and you covered it pretty well. The general reports around with it is less severe than we'd anticipated it might be. However, we're holding everything together. Heard from Red Cross. They said that they're they gave the level of alert, but it's not the high level of alert. But they did mention, and I'll pass this out, that they have at least one family in need of mental health supportive shelter throughout this event. So I'll throw that out to anyone right now. I do have the contact information, which I'll forward to James for Red Cross, their hotline. If anybody has any information or anything that they can pass along to Red Cross, they would sure appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Farr. Thank you, Genevieve, for the resources. Any other questions or comments?
Chair, this is Mayor Knudsen. I just wanted to add one other comment on the heels of Commissioner Farr's remarks, and that it follows up on conversations that we've been having in the city of Eugene about preparedness for the weather event. And this is a granular request, but one that probably works best through community. And just want to remind everyone that when Lane County faced some flooding, would have been last winter, not far from the time that we're in now, there were cases where certainly flooding was extensive, and also there were cases where on-site drainage on private property was not operating as it should. And in those cases created, really a highly localized experience of flooding within the city of Eugene. So thinking of our members who are engaged with tenants and folks who might be wondering if how their housing is prepared for the coming wet weather, to just remind people to reach out to their property owners and landlords to ensure that the drainage systems are clear. Because the city of Eugene, within our city limits, obviously will be very focused on making sure that the drainage in public spaces and public streets is operating as needed, but we can't interface on private property. And there's sometimes a link between those two things that absolutely has to be functioning for water to be flowing correctly. So just a note to everyone to be thinking about the different levels that this work has to happen in our watershed.
Thank you, Mayor Knudsen. Other comments? Thank you, everyone. We're going to move to the membership update. So before we get to the vote, we do have 3 open seats, 2 for lived experience. We did get 14 applications in total, and we have 1 sector representative seat that was just vacated because the member moved out of the area. So we should have some updates probably in, it's December already, sorry. January, in January, about filling those vacant seats.
And folks can also reach, I didn't tell you this before, folks can also reach out to Kate Budd, who's handling the recruitment efforts for those seats. So if
anybody would like to help with the interviewing process as well. Thank you. And then I pull my little tab out. Today, we are going to vote on Alexa Benson for the elected official at large. And since Alexa is on the screen, I will let her introduce herself instead of me reading off a piece of paper.
Alexa, you're muted, looks like.
Found it. Okay. Thank you. I just really wanted to say that, this is such a great opportunity. I come from a background of emergency medicine. I'm a registered nurse and a nurse practitioner. I worked in the ER for a very long time, so I have a lot of experience with mental health as, a medicine from a medicine perspective. And then I joined decided to run for city council and somehow got elected in the city of Veneta, a little town. And I feel like poverty, is something that as a society, we all share the burden. Poverty is everywhere. Homelessness is everywhere in every country. And it's really up to us to determine to what extent we allow people to get to that point. And I would say my vision for why I joined is that we have a fairly decent outreach group for the unhoused, we call them, Fern Ridge Association for the Unhoused Group. And we offer showers and meals and clothing, washing clothing and stuff. And I'd love to be able to bring transitional housing into this area. And I'm looking for some type of mentorship and just connection with everybody and all of your knowledge and skills in order to make that happen. And that's all I have to say. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexa. And with that, we would like to put it to a vote. So do we have a motion to?
I move we appoint Alexa Benson to the elected official at large position.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Maggie Bagan.
Thank you, Maggie. All right.
You're welcome.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye. Oh.
I don't think so. You got more thumbs up than I did, and I'm the chair. All right, any abstentions? All right, it passes unanimously. Welcome aboard, Alexa. And with that, we are going to pass it to James with the point in time count.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Hi, everyone. So I'm coming to the board today with a proposal to actually not do the point-in-time count this year, but I'm going to give some background for new members and just a reminder for folks of how we have been doing the pit count and share what our methodology has been and what it would have been this year once the slide pops up. So, as a refresher, the point-in-time count is an annual count of households that are experiencing homelessness in a community, and it is required by HUD of Continuum of Cares on a every other year basis. And this year is an off year, so we wouldn't be required by HUD to conduct the pit. And we also recently learned that the state of Oregon actually doesn't require even an annual pit count. So there's no requirement put in place on us this year to conduct the pit count. For the last 4 years, and it again was approved this year by HUD, our methodology was going to be to utilize the Homeless by Name list, or the HBNL, which is populated via HMIS, paired with targeted street outreach surveys in the community. What we've seen, and getting ahead of myself, the HBNL is made up of data entered by 150 different participating projects that are operated by 30 total agencies, and that includes rapid rehousing projects, street outreach projects, food banks, meal sites, and then general social services like our access centers. So for the last 4 years, as I mentioned, we had paired that HBNL data with the in-person street outreach. efforts. And what we have seen is that usually greater than 95% of those folks that are counted are folks that are already on the HBNL, so they're already in our system. So we're just not seeing a ton of numbers with the in-person counts, and I think that's really a testament to the robust nature of our HMIS system and of our community services, and that we're really connecting with the folks that are experiencing homelessness in our community. And HUD obviously recognizes that as well, as they have approved using that methodology for the last few years. So this year, as you all know, and as Amanda's going to touch on later, there's a lot in flux right now regarding the COC application. And there's a lot of time, particularly Amanda's time, being spent on that application, which means the time that we could spend on the PIT count would be reduced. We also this year have seen a reduction in street outreach teams, and so there may not be the same amount of folks available to do that in-person count. We will continue to utilize the street outreach teams that we have, who put data into HMIS on a daily basis. And I think it's important to note, and I think many people recognize that the PIT count is just one way of determining how many folks in your community are experiencing homelessness. And with it being that point in time, or that one day, I think an argument can be made that it's nowhere near as accurate as an ongoing HMIS system where people are being added on a daily basis. So all of that to say, coming to the board to look for a vote to approve us not doing the PIT count this year. What we would do instead is we would issue a why am I spacing on it? A press release, sorry. A press release that would be highlighting our Tableau dashboard, our public Tableau dashboard, which shares all of the data that comes from the HBNL and really has far more in-depth data than the PIT count offers. So it can talk about, specific demographics and inflow and outflow and all of those things. So we would still be sharing with the community a count of households experiencing homelessness in our community, but it would be via just the HBNL and not those in-person targeted outreach efforts. But of course, the outreach teams that are out doing those services anyways are also adding people into the system, so folks would be captured that way anyways. So I'm happy to take questions or concerns. We have also, we've talked with our city partners and with other folks that we know use the PIT count data as a part of their planning and of their communications. And, we have heard from those partners that they would support moving forward with that plan, but ultimately want to bring it to the PHB for your approval.
A quick question. So our agency in the past has done that. I'm wondering if I have a conflict of interest voting on whether we do it or not, because that would reduce the amount of workload we would have potentially.
I don't think so, because there's not funding specifically tied to it, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Farr?
And I'll go last in the queue if there's anybody else.
I have to look at Carly.
Okay. Then, James, if you can help me with either confirm or correct some of my perceptions regarding our historical use of the point-in-time count, the PIT count. My perception is that we've always done a very extensive count. Historically, we've put large teams of staff and volunteers throughout the county going into some relatively inhospitable places from time to time to really try to dig down and get it as accurate as we possibly can. Is that a good perception?
It is, and the last few years we went from using community volunteers to using the robust street outreach teams we had, just because of the relationships, and that's what they do on a daily basis. But yeah, what you said is accurate.
And you described the relationship because the teams, in which I was on some of the teams, quite often the people that you encounter aren't ready to. They don't trust the people who are counting and don't know why they're doing it. And so the street outreach teams have already developed a bond of trust that, in many cases, that helps with that. Then, even though we were thorough, my perception is that we never did get everybody. We're always undercounted, and I always looked at how are we versus last year, as opposed to how are we versus what the numbers really are.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying about the nature of the pit count being a one night count. I mean, it's, you're going to have a much more accurate number when you're counting folks throughout the year through the HBNL.
Yeah.
I think that there's more folks are captured that way than we could ever do in a one night count.
That confirms what I've always thought about it. And then the other thing is that my perception has been that we've been a little bit more thorough and trying to be more accurate than is typically the case nationwide in jurisdictions. That's my perception. How does that match?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And Amanda or Carly, feel free to jump in. Hey, Carly's ready.
Yeah.
Do you want to just take it, Carly? Go for it.
We do a really great job, and in no way do I want this. I don't want the takeaway to be the pit count is a waste of time or we shouldn't do it anymore. Given all the things that are happening right now, there are other ways to get really close that make it okay to skip this year. I don't think we necessarily need to go to an every other year count moving forward, but there are other factors that mean this year's count may not be as thorough anyway. Like the lower outreach teams, we've also lost a few programs that we're participating that we're bringing in unique clients, and I don't know that we're gonna be able to capture them in the same way. There's a lot of factors. And so I don't know that it will be as accurate as a regular count anyway. What we have done in the last few years is to do that measurement James mentioned. Who's on the pit count versus who's in HMIS, are they close? And we've really proven that they're close. So that's what makes me feel comfortable that we can skip a year and be okay. I wanted to acknowledge a couple of things though, which is that we always undercount the rural areas by more than the metro area. That will be true this year. There's not really a way around that.
And as thorough as we are, Carly,
We're not.
we aren't able.
People can say no. People have always said no. There's always that line, and also like we're not doing a perfect survey of the entire county. There's just no way for us to do that. So want to acknowledge that too. Just like for the rural areas, we are going to undercount you by a little bit more, and just to have acknowledged that. In past years, I think we've captured up to 10% of a rural areas count from the pit count rather than that 5%. So I just wanted to make that clear.
And that supports my perceptions that I've developed over
so close.
13 years or so.
Yeah.
And it's evolved significantly. The one thing that has evolved, and I don't think I'm inaccurate in this, our data tracking is far more sophisticated than it was 13 years ago.
Yes.
Or 2 years ago, for that matter.
Yes, providers can really attest to that. They do a lot. We help them a lot. The burden is quite high. So we're able to do a lot, just leveraging the funding requirements we already have. Because we have providers on the call, I want to make one really clear distinction. We are still doing the sheltered pit count and the housing inventory count. Amanda doesn't have to do anything for those. We just pull a report, and then folks like Hope and Safety will still be asking for their regular, how many folks did you shelter last night? So that count will still move forward. We'll still have that information about how many PSH beds did we have on that night and how does that compare to previous years. That's something we hadn't, we don't have the same metric like we do for the by name list. So we're still doing those parts. Those are also requirements annually. So we'll be doing the sheltered pit count and the housing inventory, but we just won't be doing that unsheltered count and be using the by name list to estimate that number.
Well, and once again, that supports my perceptions that I've developed through the years, which have evolved through the years. And I still worry that the numbers that we report, which are used for certain allocations, that it may not work in our favor to be as accurate as we have been. And I don't comment on that at this point in time because it's still up in the air as to how the data is going to be used as compared to how it has been used in the past. I don't know the answer, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot to give me the answer here today. So that being said, I support the recommendation by staff that we use existent data from the system to provide the reporting on this year. So I am in support of that, James. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Farr. Any other comments or discussion?
Thanks, Carly.
I don't see anyone.
Okay. All right. Then with that, I'm wondering, do we have anyone with a motion to accept no point in time count for this year?
Motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Was that
That was Kim.
Matthias? Okay. Matthias motioned and,
Kim, second.
okay. All right. All those, Any discussion? Forgot about that. Additional? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right, thank you. It passes unanimously. All right, Amanda. An update on the HUD continuum of care. No foe.
I'm smiling.
I'm just assuming she's gonna have an update from the update that we had last Thursday.
You weren't smiling last Thursday.
Yeah, so things are changing quickly. Next, go ahead and do next slide. So about 10 days ago, as many I think are already aware, HUD did rescind or withdraw their current fiscal year 25 continuum of care in YHDP notice of funding. That came quite suddenly, and basically they've indicated at this point that they intend to make revisions and reissue that NOFO ahead of the deadline for appropriations, which would be actually in 2027. So no general indication of timeline, just that it will be reissued. So it's important to note that came just about an hour or 90 minutes before a scheduled hearing related to the pending lawsuit around the COC NOFO. So essentially they were arguing that they rescinded it in order to make revisions to address some of the things in the lawsuit. So it came as a surprise to many in court and I think even to the HUD council that it was rescinded. So again, very suddenly, not a ton of explanation. Next slide. So most folks are wondering sort of what this means for us, and the NOFO requires, there's a whole process within that NOFO around how we have to conduct a local application process for establishing what new and renewal projects we will submit in that application. So there are a number of deadlines that the NOFO establishes and all of those sort of things. And so that process was already well underway given the timeline for that submission. And so with that being withdrawn, it is essentially just no longer in effect. And so that sort of puts everything in a situation where we're not really sure, right, how to move forward. So many COCs, just like ours, were kind of discussing, do we pause? Do we just continue moving forward until we can't? And I think there was generally a mix of those two things from what I'm hearing. For us, that week was the particular week when renewals and new projects were due. And so it made sense just for us to sort of continue those processes, finish them out. So new project application that happened through our request for proposals selection process with the county. That concluded, that was I think closing that same day. And so those proposals have been reviewed, have been scored. That process is still pending, but we are finishing that out in hopes that with a change of the NOFO or whatever ends up happening, we could still potentially use those applications since folks took the time to do those very quickly. We got quite a number of applications, and so I would hate to sort of just not utilize that process. So hopefully, we could still use that in some way. The renewal project applications were also due that week, the Friday, the 12th. And so we just had folks submit that supplemental form that we had put out. And we will leave it at that until we know more about what the scoring looks like in the NOFO, what ends up happening with that. So essentially, once those are done, we're on pause, because following that, it's really completing the COC application itself and all of those things, which we can't do if it's not available. So we'll keep those in place. If a NOFO gets re-released and there are substantial changes that impact what we've already done in those processes, like they change the new project components that you can apply for, or they remove the 30% cap, those kind of things might completely change those processes that we've completed, and we'll have to adjust accordingly. Next slide. So I think the other question was, we had already kind of made big decisions around reallocation based on the fact that permanent housing was limited to 30% of our annual renewal demand, and so we had already sort of done that first, communicated that out so that we could then make other project decisions. So that is essentially on hold at this point, because the 30% cap is one of the primary things in the lawsuit that could end up being addressed. And so should that be removed by HUD, that would completely change the amount of money that we have available for new projects and which renewals we are submitting. And so that's really going to be a big key determinant of how we move forward once, or if a NOFO is released. So we already had started working with folks around transitioning folks out of those programs that we anticipated to be ending. And of course, we at this point don't know which projects will or will not be ending and on what timeline. And so we are still continuing to have those conversations and work closely with agencies around what those transition options will be. And we're coordinating with Homes for Good around what voucher options or public housing options might be there as well. And I think that, even given revisions in the NOFO or whatever happens with this process, I think it will be important to continue doing the work of assessing for moving on, just given that HUD has made it clear they really want us to be using PSH for those who really need the long-term supportive services, and which, of course, we want as well. I think the challenge has been that we just don't have those options for folks to move on to, and so folks stay very long-term, even though they might just need the rental subsidy. And so we're going to continue to do more work around that, improving our move-on process, simplifying that so we can really assess who's ready to move on. And I think it will end up having to, involve creative options to find folks places to go. But we've encouraged providers to be transparent with their participants about what's happening, what we know and what we don't know. And of course, there's a lot of unknowns, and that can create a lot of, uncertainty, a lot of trauma for folks, when they've had a lot of uncertainty around their housing in the past. And so we've just encouraged folks to be transparent about that. The National Alliance has issued a guide around how to talk to tenants, so we've shared that with folks. But we fully understand it's a very challenging time, not just for us on our end, but certainly on the program end. That's much harder to have those conversations. Next slide. So coming back to the sort of lawsuit aspect, there are currently 2 lawsuits now in the District Court of Rhode Island, both under the same judge. So that the first one was the 2021 states that was initially filed, and then the National Alliance, along with some other nonprofits and various organizations nationwide, also filed a lawsuit to sort of cover the results nationwide, because the state one would really just, some things might only apply to the states who were included on that lawsuit. So sort of 2 are being considered together in that court. Some of the 5 main issues I've touched on are the Tier 1 cap, the ending of sort of the housing first model that's really baked into that program and has been for quite a long time, the gender ideology conditions that were imposed within the NOFO, essentially only recognizing male, female, and no other genders, and then the disability condition. That refers to the part in the NOFO where new permanent housing was limited to those with physical disabilities and elderly. So essentially just they were no longer going to recognize mental health and substance use as disabilities, was the read of that. So there are some challenges around that, that doesn't reflect sort of the definition of disability under statute. And then the geographic discrimination conditions, those really revolve around the public camping and enforcement of public drug use laws. There's just some challenges around those things, and the implementation of SORNA that apply to specific states disproportionately, and some things that would apply disproportionately to sanctuary states, for example. And so there are some arguments about how that would impact particular states. So essentially they're just making arguments around just the legality of some of these things, the nature in which some of this has happened violates the administrative process that's in place for doing so, for making changes, and that they were just, essentially not provided comment or the appropriate process for making policy changes, especially when certain things are really reflected within the statute and within the Hearth Act, kind of identifies Congress's vision for the program, and they're arguing that this goes against a lot of what the intention was of the program. So the NAEH lawsuit is similar, although there are some slightly different arguments that they present there. I highly recommend folks just review the text of those. I think it's interesting just to see that sort of laid out and what they're arguing is in the lawsuits. So the next court hearing is tomorrow at 7 a.m. our time, since that's happening all the way on the East Coast at 10 a.m. So the last one was live streamed on the District Court of Rhode Island's YouTube. So you can go to that webpage and see if it will be live streamed. It's not currently on the calendar, but we understand it's supposed to be. So I plan on tuning in. I think it's good if you are available to tune in to see how that sort of court case might play out. And we might learn more tomorrow morning around sort of what the next steps are with a NOFO. Or if they will simply require HUD to move forward with renewals. So we will see. I don't know if that will be decided tomorrow or at a later date. So again, there's no estimated timeline around a release or a revise, so we're just sort of on hold at this point. And that's, certainly concerning, just given the timeline of funding. And I think that's one of the main arguments in the lawsuits is that, right, the clock is ticking, and by now we typically have awards within a few weeks of now, and we haven't even applied at this point. And so from that point, we were already looking at a sort of May, April time frame, and now we might be even into mid-year by the time we know, and that's sort of when most of our grants start expiring. So the time is really of the essence for many, and many across the nation have expiration dates even earlier that just don't know about the next step with their funding. So it's fairly likely we'll be, well into 2026 by the time we might have awards if HUD continues on the path of issuing a new NOFO. Any questions? I don't maybe have answers. Go ahead.
It seems in one of our earlier meetings that we had discussed that they weren't originally going to do a NOFO this year. Is that correct? So a possibility is that we'll just remain status quo for this next fiscal year?
Yeah, so that's one of the big things as part of this lawsuit is that we had originally been issued a fiscal year 24/25 NOFO. So they had sort of finally agreed to do a 2-year cycle, understanding that, right, not much changes from year to year, and COC spend a lot of time just completing this application process to give a lot of the same information from year to year. And so they had finally sort of moved to that 2-year cycle. And so we, and many COCs were under the impression that renewals would sort of be somewhat automatic. There was a date in August that was supposed to be a deadline for any changes to your renewal projects, but otherwise things were supposed to move forward. And so that's sort of one of the big pieces of the lawsuit is they're asking to sort of just continue with that one in effect, and that HUD would be able to make changes in the following year with a normal process and a normal timeline. So we will see if that ends up being the result.
Well, I have a couple of things to say about it. One is the instability that the entire process caused.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it's palpable. And if we felt it here, we know it was felt across the entire nation. So a great deal of wasted energy, wasted concern. What we do as service providers is we try our best to reassure the people who we serve that we're going to be there. If only the people who help us do that would do the same for us. In this case, regarding the NOFO, good news indeed. And I mentioned kind of laughingly that you were smiling. Well, I'll go back to 3 weeks ago when we were talking about this, and you had such an incredible deadline, Amanda, placed on your shoulders. And Chair Murphy, you and I were there with the co-vice chair, Matthias Smith, and I believe that let's see, both Mayor Sean Van Gordon and Mayor Knudsen were there on the screen, and you were reporting what sounded like just a hideous, unachievable timeline, and you were doing it with I wouldn't say joy on your face, but you were going to do it. You were going to make it happen, Amanda, and I was just impressed, amazed that you were going to do it this close up to the holiday season, where a lot of people who you rely on for your support have other things that are happening. And not just people locally, but the other people that we rely on for support. And Amanda, I wanted everybody to know the amount of reassurance you gave me that day that it would get done. Well, this is good news today for you and everybody else, that we get a little bit more time to prepare for it, and maybe we'll have a better product in the end. I hope so. But really, everybody should realize how stoic Amanda, who I often call Star, what was it 3 weeks ago? I mean, it just made me feel, well, I guess somebody's on the job. I'm glad it's not me today. And so anyway, I just wanted to pass that along. And later in this meeting, I want to talk about the county financial assistance agreement, which is a state lack of assurance that we had along the same lines. But we're continually getting a lack of assurance from people who support Lane counties and our municipal area efforts at the levels that we try to pass along to the people that we serve. We're not getting that support. But here at Lane County and in the cities, we're doing our best to absorb that and still provide the support and the reassurance to the people that we are serving. Amanda, you are a star. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. That was too much. I will say, yes, it's a good thing it is put on hold just for the sake of everything that was in it, and hopefully some of those things will change for the better. And the timeline was very unrealistic for many, and that would have been an effort that the entire team at Lane County was ready to jump in on, and it was really going to be a full community effort to get that done. And again, I think the downside is just the uncertainty that we're now in of not knowing what our funding looks like and not knowing who might lose housing and on what timeline, and that's really an unfortunate place to be, I think. And hopefully things will work out for the better, or we will know more after tomorrow's hearing, hopefully, to give us some indication of the direction we're going.
And then Amanda, can you just repeat for Heather? She wanted to know about the RFP or notification, or is that all pending?
Yeah, so we, that evaluator committee for the RFP did meet, and I think there are just still some delays with the finalization of the scoring. And so that all happens through our admin department, so I don't think I can speak on sort of the official process, but my understanding is they will be putting out an update to the dates for intent to renew. And so I think that's just been pushed back a little bit. But yes, we intend to issue intent to renew, and there will be obviously some messaging in there around we do not know about the future of this funding or if we will actually be able to contract for any of those projects. So it's sort of still an unknown.
Did that answer what you needed, Heather?
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So I saw a lot of appreciation. Oh, there is one more? Oh, a couple more. Sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I was a little bit slow to raise my hand there. I want to add my appreciation to the work that staff has been doing to navigate the circumstance. I think that this administration's decision to pull back a really poorly considered funding opportunity application and to recalibrate that it is good news, but it's also disorienting when this can be framed as good news, because I think that what is really needed is the partnership that was alluded to by Commissioner Farr. We need our federal government to be a partner with us in the work of meeting our community's needs, especially the needs of our most vulnerable community members. And I will hold out some hope that this will come back as a better funding opportunity, and one that is in alignment with research and everything that we know about how to do this work effectively and cost effectively. But I am also, I guess I'll just say, appreciative that the influence of our West Coast partners and the state of Washington bringing a suit to question some of the basis of that NOFO seems to be a defining influence in this case. So appreciations to our partners in other states and communities who are trying to do good work.
Thank you. And Wakan?
Yeah, thank you. Amanda, I appreciate all the information and the updates. And I'm really curious if, there's been any asks of Oregon or Lane County in participating in any of the suits. We recently were dealing with other HUD changes from the Housing Authority perspective, and we recently met with some lawyers for other housing authorities who were suing HUD around some changes related to our programs. And there was language around that only housing authorities participating in the suit were the ones covered, and there was a lot of encouragement for other folks to participate in the suits. And I guess I'm curious with the COC suits, if that's anything that we're aware of, or if there's been a push for Oregon to join that suit to kind of support or create momentum.
Yeah, so Oregon is a party on that first lawsuit, along with, I think, 20 other states. So we were included on that. I don't think Lane County or like more down to the level of COCs have been asked to necessarily be involved, as sort of the arguments are that these apply statewide to any COC within that jurisdiction. We did have an opportunity to meet with OHCS, who scheduled a meeting to kind of talk with COCs around what's happening, what we anticipate the impacts are, and they were able to bring someone from the Attorney General's office to sort of talk through the lawsuit and what's in it and what that process looks like. And so I think the state is certainly working with us to understand what's happening, and that was really, I think, very helpful for us to feel like we're really all in this together as a state. And I will say too, the COCs in the state of Oregon have all really come together to coordinate and talk, and we've been in regular communication now. So I think that that's helpful to see how this might impact different parts of Oregon.
No, that's great. I appreciate kind of everybody coming together to have that unified voice. So thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Carly, the HMIS website.
Folks who have Zoom questions, you gotta message me here. Do I need a little bit closer? Okay, thank you. It's been a long time, I think, since I've been to one of these meetings. And Commissioner Farr set me up really well, I feel like. Since I got back from maternity leave in July, I think there's been one theme all the time, which is we don't know what's happening. And in the time that I have worked for the county since 2020, we did COVID, we did wildfires, we did more COVID, we did executive orders, we did more executive orders. It's just been a constant set up, take down. And what Commissioner Farr alluded to earlier also is just like, how many metrics can we track? How are we doing? Performance, constant. Agencies have been pivoting and repivoting and opening and closing, and HMIS folks, like, we've been with you the whole time trying to help you catch up. And this fall, we had a weird period where we were just waiting, and we had time to pause, reflect for a moment, and actually do something different. So wanted to show folks, I'll get a short link for this eventually. But if you go to lanecounty.org/HMIS and then click on the left here, there's a new data page that I'm about to drop in the chat for people who are online so they can see. But hopefully you're able to see my screen sharing as well. I hear a lot questions about, I know we're doing a lot, but what is it? What are we doing? Where's my proof? And we're trying to collect all of those links and pages and documents for you on one page. So this isn't finished yet. You'll see more stuff come up over time, but wanted to let folks know that it's here, and a few of the documents were included in the packet so you could see as well. Here, I'll do a brief tour, and then if there's questions. Here on the right side, you can access the help desk. If you're a Lane County HMIS program, you may know those pages very well. That's where you can come to us for help. Coordinated entry page is linked here. The state has their own reports. HUD has federal reports. All that stuff is sort of linked on the right if you'd like to see it. And then here in the center in these accordion pages are different types of information we have available to you. So at the beginning of this, everyone was talking about the Tableau dashboards. If you've been here for a long time, you know what those are, but other people don't. So here they are. Here's the Tableau dashboards. It will explain to you each one, and there's a link. So there's a brief description. You can click on those. You can deep dive to your heart's content. Of course, if you have questions, you're welcome to email me, and I'm happy to help you get the information that you need. And Tableau is a lot. So what we have just started and is linked on this page are brief monthly reports for the coordinated entry list and the homelessness by name list. You can find these at the bottom of the page. I'll open them up for you and walk through them briefly in a moment. You can also hit the subscribe button and subscribe to email notifications whenever a new PDF is posted. So you can get updates on those monthly reports if you like them. And also, we're going to be posting our federal report information here. A little bit in that LSA page for people who love that system map. I'll make sure it's visible to you. The pit count information, we've got a few of those linked here with some information, as well as the system performance measures. So just trying to get all of this information in one place for you. And most of that is things you've seen before. These new reports, the monthly coordinated entry and by name list, may be new to you. Here is the coordinated entry list page, and here's what it looks like. On page 2, you'll see definitions for a lot of these terms. Here's one page. You don't have to apply any filters or anything. It's just delivered to you. In November, how many households did we have on the list? How many was it there? Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Here's your coordinated entry list one. For November, how many households did we add to the list or were screened this month? How many are actively waiting for housing right now? We've identified they're eligible and they're waiting. And how many were we able to find housing for? If you've been on the front door assessor email list, you may have been removed. This replaces that for you. How many referrals, how many were enrolled, how many housed, and then some different characteristics of those household types. So this isn't everyone who's homeless, it's folks who've screened into that coordinated entry list. But I think we hear a lot about the CWL, the centralized wait list, the FDA, the front door, coordinated entry. These are all the same terms, and you can find information here. We've also got a very brief by name list here for the month of November, who was added to the list, who stays on the list, who was exited. Veterans, seniors, youth, and then definitions on page 2. So trying to make it easier for like little bite-sized things, you could screenshot this and drop it in an email, PowerPoint presentation, attach this somewhere. You can look month by month, just trying to make it a little bit easier to access and more bite-size. For questions, suggestions for more, like we're happy to support those as well. My takeaway I hope people take is that you don't need all the links anymore. We're trying to just put them all on this page for you, easy to find, and we'll make sure the link gets out to folks too. A positive update for once, I'm happy to have. Are there any, yes, happy to take questions.
Any questions?
You can't see them, so you just have to speak up because I can't show them.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you.
You're fine.
This is really great. Thank you for walking us through this and for making these improvements to how accessible this information is. I can think of a lot of people in our community who will be, that this will help to have a sense of how we're doing and where there is need and also where we're making some really important progress. And it's not always that we see numbers decreasing in a month snapshot, but it looks like inflow and outflow were in a positive direction last month, which is great news. I just have 2 quick questions as follow-up, and really on those 2 summary slides showing the flow of people, who's new, who's active, who's exited. Thank you for making this language that people would normally be familiar with. And a question about the term housed, and if we have more data that would tell us something about the types of housing that people are exiting from this system into, if it's permanent supportive housing, if it's types of units, even in building types, to have a better sense of kind of where need is in our community or different trajectories with types of housing that are needed in order to meet need. So I'm wondering if do we have any more granular information about the where that people exited into when they became housed?
Yes, this is like I see Commissioner Farr like smiling. This is my bread and butter every day. We track the destinations. HUD defines what those categories are. So we do know public housing, and then if it's owned housing, we also know rentals, either subsidized or not subsidized. And then for subsidy, we have some types like rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. Also, sometimes folks move in with friends or family permanently. So that house number is really broad. It encompasses a lot of things. We can dig down somewhat. For example, if they moved in with friends, family, if it's a rental, and those subsidies that we talked about. We don't have the actual types, so I don't know like multifamily, shared housing, et cetera. But we do have some information. I can say the PSH rapid rehousing, that's almost exclusively these 53 who found housing from the coordinated entry list. Almost all of those programs pull from this list. So very similar. Also, this is households and this is individuals. It's kind of confusing. So a lot of it is those housing programs. Also, we've seen a ton of success with diversion. And so between diversion programming and those housing providers, that's the bulk of the list, because those are the ones that we're most likely to be aware of. That 514 no longer using services, I'm certain contains some portion of housing, but we just can't say that for sure.
Okay. Very helpful. Thank you for that additional information. And if that, I may follow up and ask for more of that kind of detail in an ongoing manner as we're thinking about different opportunities that we might have related to housing production in our community. So thank you for sharing that there is more granular detail available. One other question that relates to the work that we are doing with the Built for Zero model, and specifically thinking about the youth who are exiting from our population of people who are experiencing homelessness. Is it possible to see this information routinely or have a sort of monthly update on how we're doing? And I'm not sure of the overlap between Built for Zero with kids and families or the youth component that's captured here, but that's an area that, as the mayor of Eugene, I hear a lot of community interest in, and I think that there is a strong desire for us to make progress against that goal. And I'm just wondering if there is more data or more information that we could use in that effort.
Yeah, and I'm going to speak for James. We just lost our current YHTP program services coordinator, but like my last conversation with her was, what are our goals moving forward? What can we do like in this time? One of the primary goals in the youth coordinated community plan was to create a youth specific by name list and start to track these metrics. What's really important is helping define who counts as a youth, because households change so much in that demographic.
Yeah.
So we need to really engage those youth providers first. But that's one of the things she had raised as a priority, like still needs to move forward in her absence. So that's one of my goals for 26.
Okay. That's great to hear. Thank you so much for both of those updates and letting me also offer my appreciations for the work that you all have been doing. Very, very helpful.
You have more, but I also don't want to take too much of your time. Okay.
You're good.
Mike Yoshioka asked in the chat who the providers are conducting most of the FDAs. I could pull a list for you, Mike, of most common. It's changed a lot in the last few months because we've lost so many case managers at the shelter programs. I'm looking at Jack. It's changed a lot in the last few months. So I could have told you beforehand, but off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you who those super common ones are anymore. Heather's right, CSS does quite a few. There's a lot of providers in the community, and because of that loss of case managers, we started to be really creative about who we're giving that access to. So we've been working hard on that effort. One of the things that changed in the funding loss that we had is we ended up moving some staff responsibilities around. So my team has taken on part of the responsibility of coordinated entry and helping to train those assessors, and that we've met a lot of new people in the last few months, so I'd have to get you an updated list. And then I think Jen also has her hand up. Sorry, is that?
No, that's fine, because I can't see. Go
Okay,
right ahead.
perfect. Yes, I'm in charge. Sorry, I'm away from my other computer, so you can't see. But Jen, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, thanks. It's kind of relates about the housing production, and I'm curious how we are able to track vacancy rates in the city accurately, particularly of like new construction that has been geared to kind of solve some of these problems, and then like tracking when there are these housing developments that are kind of meant to be here. Does this data track when people go into affordable housing units as well, like the Red Apple project, for instance? But yeah, just curious about vacancy rates as well.
Yeah, that's a really great question. The answer is no. The HMIS is a small slice of the full availability and portfolio of things out there. We did have an intern try to help us with that about a year ago, and we made some progress, but we also learned how much harder it is than we ever imagined. So I have a portion, and after we submit the housing inventory count, we can definitely come back and present on that portion. There's a lot more of the affordable housing that lives in a different land, and then also Wakan could speak to Homes for Good, and housing authorities have an entirely different, tricky database they have to use for their HUD requirements that are different from ours. So it's been really tricky to try to work those together when they're not really meant to work together. And we're all just trying to meet our basic requirements too. So there's a lot more out there that we're not able to track in HMIS.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
If I may just tag on to that answer, and Wakan, you're sitting right there kind of looking and smiling, and this is the work that Wakan does with Homes for Good. And Homes for Good is one of the largest providers of new front doors. We're working on the Coleman right now, and we had a good report on that yesterday, Wakan. And if you wanted to say something about how you track housing, that'd be of interest to people, because coordination between what we do at the Poverty and Homelessness Board and what happens at the Housing Authority is absolutely essential. And I'm lucky I get to sit on both boards, but if you want to take a second to answer Jan's question, how does it happen on your end?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Farr. I appreciate you calling that out. I was smiling because it's true. We were just having the conversation around our own occupancy within our affordable housing, public housing, and we can easily report on those things. And our occupancy is quite high in all of those. What we don't have is kind of what Genevieve was mentioning is, the other flavors of affordable housing, like the Red Apple project that was mentioned. That's not data that Homes for Good would have. So we have these big gaps in the data that we would be able to provide. And I know we've already partnered with Lane County to try to, potentially have some of our data available in a dashboard similar to what you're seeing today. So I definitely think that there is data that we can make available. And then we need to find ways to engage these other providers to fill those gaps.
What a wonderful asset you're going to be to the board. Thank you for being here, Wakan. The other thing I'd like to say, Carly, is that we know this. We're falling down behind 1,200 units a year. Just in the metropolitan area alone, in Lane County. And we've not done much to really address that because it's getting, the pipeline is growing in the need. So as we try to do it and we try to coordinate it between the county and the municipalities, we're still not getting there. We're still not building the facilities that we need.
I've made it through all the active questions and hands, but I'll put my email in the chat. Folks who contact me know I'm happy to answer questions. I'm definitely around if you need things, if there's data points you need. We put the same call out to providers at our agency admin meeting last week. It's a tricky time. We want to help you get money and keep money, and whatever we can do to help support that effort, we're happy to do. So thank you.
Thanks, Carly. It's good that COC, now we got Homes for Good. We've been talking about this as long as I've been on the Poverty and Homelessness Board of how we can come up with that space where the continuum of care and the housing authority and then private sector entities that also run affordable and low-income housing, how we can partner together and have a space where the community can see the efforts of the entire community. So I feel like we're 2 steps ahead from where we started 6 years ago when we didn't have anything, so. Slow but steady wins the race. So, all right. And next we're going to go over the work group strategies with James.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to just revisit the topic of the work group, the work groups that will be working on the strategies that you all prioritized out of our strategic plan. There have been several folks, including the chairs and I, who have had conversations just around the landscape that has changed since these strategies were prioritized. So between the reduction in shelter funding we're experiencing this year, obviously the unknowns with the COC, I've just had a lot of folks asking, are these work groups going to continue with those set goals? And so I wanted to come to the board and just give a refresher. I will say, too, we have had excellent recruitment efforts. I want to thank our intern, Jen Brown, who's been working in our office, who some of you have probably interacted with because she's done a lot to reach out to folks. And as it stands, we have all 4 of these new work groups have full committee members already. The interest has been huge. And so really just want to thank members and other folks that have expressed interest. So it's definitely not a question of whether or not there's interest or motivation, but it's really just, are these specific goals and strategies still what the board wants to prioritize in light of the changing funding? And I do think there's an opportunity to move forward with these 4 committees. And if the goals no longer make sense, the committees themselves can look at the strategic plan and identify other goals that are in there that they may want to work on. It also, if the board feels like there's a need to shift to a different set of work groups or a different, set of strategies, that's certainly an option as well. But I do just want to emphasize there has been so much work put into by the board to create these work groups and so much interest that I do think there is an ability to move forward with them as is, if that is of the interest of the board. So really just leaving it up to discussion. I don't think there needs to be a formal vote unless the board is looking to move away from this plan that was originally adopted and move to different strategies. But if there's input any members have regarding the path forward, would be interested in hearing that. And I should have prefaced and as a reminder that the intent is to have new committees up and running by the first of the year, within the month of January. And so we're set to be ready to do that if that still remains the path forward that folks want to do. We are working, and Carly highlighted, the program staff team that I supervise, we've reduced our staff by 50% in the last few months. And so we, are continuing to identify ways that we can help to support these committees, but I think we have the ability to support them if the board decides to move forward with them. So just wanted to throw that out there because that's another question that I've been getting from folks. So with that, I would just, leave it to any questions or discussion, or, if folks feel good with moving forward with this as is, that's obviously an option.
Any questions? Or Carly, you were pointing.
I just had actually a question regarding clarification of just something. So I think that I know which one of these committees I'd like to be on, and I reached out to you, James, and I still am unsure, when is this meeting? Who's leading it? I also have at least 3 people at the shelter where I am right now who would make extremely great members of League. And in fact, Justin, who's part of Layton County Outreach, is also really would like one of them to be on League. And I submitted what I thought was an application for them, but I haven't heard a word. And I'm just wondering, are we just waiting for things to gel, or how do I get in contact with these actual people to get involved?
I'll let Amanda handle the league-specific piece. Just the first part of that you mentioned, these committees are not yet set up or scheduled for their first meeting. The last step was kind of this discussion, and then after there's confirmation from the board of how they want to move forward, we will then, probably Jen Brown from our team, will reach out to the folks who have expressed interest in these 4 committees and get something scheduled for hopefully the month of January. As far as league, I'll turn that to Amanda.
Yeah, so League does have an application open right now. It's open on a rolling basis. I think we have somewhere around 3 to 5 seats to fill. We've received a number of applications, and so the group reviews those sort of as they come in batches. And so I think I've given them all, but I think a couple that I received just this week. And then what happens is I email or I contact all of those folks that have applied and invite them to come to the next meeting, because the next process for League is simply to attend 2 meetings before you can be approved as a voting member, because we get a lot of folks that, apply and then we don't hear from them, or they don't show up to a meeting, or there's just no follow-up. And so the group wants folks to come to a meeting, see if it's a good fit. So I do contact all of those folks that have applied, I think except for a couple that applied just this week maybe. So all the other ones should have been contacted. So if there's someone who doesn't feel like they've been contacted, you can definitely reach out to me and I can follow up directly.
Thank you, Sherry. Any other questions or comments?
Just quickly, where is the application located for that?
The application should be posted to the Poverty and Homelessness Board website. So it's an online application through Cognito. So under that Poverty and Homelessness Board, there's a section for vacancies, and I believe it should be posted there. If it's not, you can just reach out to me.
Yeah, I just
I'm
want
sorry, just one more quick question and then I'll stop hogging the mic. So as far as that goes, like some of the people that we work with that would be amazing on that board don't have phones because they're unhoused. So can I use my phone number for them? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's fine. So there are options for different contact methods within the form. So we ask which is better, mail, email, phone. So we understand folks might be in various places. A lot of folks list an agency to contact. So however is easiest for us to get a hold of that person. And we do host both hybrid and in-person meetings, so whichever way is most successful is fine. And those are open meetings too, so even if they've not, applied or they're just interested, they can just show up. It's always the first Friday of every month at our office at 2:00. The next one in January is the 9th, just due to the holiday. So those are just open, and so if folks are just interested, they can also just show up.
Our office being where?
That's at 1132 Lawrence in Eugene.
Thank you.
Have us send out the information to the group if that's helpful. Thanks.
I don't know about everyone else, but you're greatly helpful for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to give high praise to the county staff. I'm in many committees, in many different areas, not just, with the PHP. And I am now, going from having multiple people as working with to one or two. And that just really shows you how hardworking and dedicated the folks at the county are. And I just really want to, give them high praise. They're very, very dedicated, hardworking folks, and I really appreciate it.
Other questions or comments?
I'm assuming.
I was going to say, I'm assuming that the board is okay with moving forward with the committees and having them meet. So, and then I think it's a good idea to leave it up to the committees when they all meet, if they feel like they can move forward with ideas and move everything forward, then they can let us know and we'll get that information back. And if they feel like there's too much uncertainty, that they would also let us know and they would take a hiatus until we have some clarity around certain things. Does that sound good for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
I'm like, no one else is responding, so yes, that's good.
Yes, it's Maggie, and I put it in the chat, but I'll verbally express my approval too.
No problem. It's, as I've said before, I'm a little slow with going around the table and then having to go look up at the screen to catch everything, but I see ya. All right. Any questions or comments in regards to the committee updates? Are the minutes are in here?
They should, yeah, there should be a committee report document in the packet, yeah.
Oh, yes, Commissioner?
We're on committee updates.
Yes.
If I could take just a moment to talk about a committee that that we are represented at, which is it's a county-wide committee. It's a local government advisory committee, which is it's an Association of Oregon Counties and Oregon Health Authority. It's a committee that meets once a month, and the perspectives and views of the Poverty and Homelessness Board in Lane County joins with those from other counties throughout the state. Let me tell you a bit about the committee. Last week we met, and at that committee meeting was the director of OHA, which is Sejal Hathi, the director of OHCS, which is Amanda Bell, and the director of behavioral health, Oregon Behavioral Health, Department of Human Services, DHS. So these are the three directors of the three largest agencies at the state, outside of the public works agencies. And they were there to respond to the needs of counties, and that counties being representing the municipalities also. What happened last week and what has been happening is that the county financial assistance agreement has been, was put forward by the state. It was not acceptable. They were putting out, without going into detail, a large number of requirements without any levels of support for the services. Through the work of the LGAC, but more through the work of county councils throughout the state, counties were not going to sign that agreement. This kind of came to a head last week with the directors listening to the counties. It's not a place where the counties yell at the directors. It's a place where we try to work things out. Well, early this week, the state did announce that they will be looking again at the County Financial Assistance Agreement, the CFAA, and it's being put forward in a way that it looks like counties are going to be able to sign it through the work of counties working together. And Mayor Knudsen, you pointed out a couple of times in this meeting the importance of us working together locally and with other levels of government. The LGAC is a place that we are able to do that, but we're able to do it very specifically here around this table. And the things that happen at this table get parlayed to the other levels of government. I happen to be the chair of that committee. We meet once or twice a month, and we really are able to get the very specific needs of the people providing the service in the municipalities and the counties. So it has been a really positive committee that we work on. It's not highly publicized, and it's not assigned by the president of Oregon Association of Counties. I've been the chair of it now for 3 years. Sounds like a big deal. It's not. All I do is make sure that people are on time when they're talking. That's all I do. But we do a good job, and we do get things, and things do happen. So, and your voices are heard at that level. So, locally, Director Eve Gray is on that committee. And she provides a great deal of direct input. And we'll be meeting again. Oh, that wasn't my purpose of talking about it. I talked about who was there, the directors of the superstars, every one of them. But the real superstar of the last meeting was Maria Cortez, our own Maria Cortez, who made a wonderful presentation on MLK Commons and the evolution that's occurred at MLK Commons of how we're able to support the needs of the people who are living there, while at the same time recognizing that the needs have varied and things evolve. So while the directors of all the agencies were there, Maria stole the show. If I don't know if Maria's listening, but pass it along. It was a really good presentation that Maria made.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments?
I do have one quick question. I'm looking at future meetings, and I'm seeing a January 8th meeting. Is that an all-member meeting, or is
We're going to do that on the wrap-up.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
I was just looking at that. I'm like, oh, people are going to have questions about that one. All right. Okay. If we're done with the committee updates, then we're going to do the wrap-up. And so we'll throw that on there first of, do we still have to have a January 8th virtual meeting, considering where everything is with the NOFO?
Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we'd like to keep it on the calendar.
Probably keep it just in case something wild happens over the next week. But I don't know that we'll need it just yet.
Correct. This was the special meeting that was scheduled, yeah.
And I'm assuming Amanda or James, somebody will email us and let us know if we can cancel it.
Yes, yeah, we'll be in touch for sure with notice, as much notice as we can provide.
Okay. And then all right, and so then on January 15th, we have the executive committee. There was a little bit of discussion of if we all met on the 8th, that we might cancel the executive committee because there might not be much for us to update or have on the agenda if we just met on the 8th around the NOFO. So we'll keep people abreast of that. But no, if we don't meet on the 8th, we will have the executive committee on the 15th. And then the next all-member meeting is February 19th. So, and I want to appreciate all the board members who are not part of the executive committee who show up on the executive meeting so that we can have a robust discussion. And as being somebody on the executive team, it's nice to have you guys there to talk about things and have your input, and it's just not the five of us there. So thank you. Yes. Can I have a moment at the end to ask?
Oh, no, Debbie's hands up too.
Oh, that is, I'm reading Debbie's thing. Yes. Go ahead, Debbie. You can go ahead.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Debbie Farr, she, her. I'm the Community Outreach and Engagement Manager at Trillium. We have been hearing in the community that there is concern for those Pacific Source members that will be transitioning to Trillium as of February 1st, who are unhoused and don't currently have a way to get mail. So I'm trying to put together just an informal group to help us figure out the best way to get the member packets to these individuals. I've connected with Connected Lane County. That was funny. Connected with Connected Lane County and Sarah Koski at LTD. And I know many of you probably have ideas, suggestions. So I was planning to send out an email just asking if you'd be interested in forming this ad hoc group, just probably one meeting. But if you're interested, just so that I can get some of your suggestions and ideas, because you're the community that really knows how to approach this.
Thank you, Debbie.
I'll put my email in the chat so you can let me know if you are interested. Does that work for everyone?
Debbie, I'm going to put you on the spot, not to answer questions, but just to say, I've been to a couple of meetings where they've had Q&As about the transition from Pacific Source to Trillium and the panel and how that works. So I'm going to put Debbie on the spot because I know Trillium has a ton of PowerPoints that you guys can reach out to her if members are asking questions about who's on the panel, what, if anything, they need to do, and next steps. So, because
and I think when you say panel, Sean, you're
up that there was some clarity around that.
Okay. And when you say panel, I think you're talking about the provider panel.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
there was
so
a
the
lot of
network.
questions about were Pacific Source providers on the Trillium panel and things like that. And Trillium has some PowerPoints that can give folks that information and how Pacific Source and Trillium are working together to make that transition smooth. That might be helpful for members to know.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. And there is, if you go to the OHA website, they have a lot of information there. A copy of the letters that are going out to current Pacific Source members, just kind of explaining the transition and what they need to do or not do. But I appreciate that, Sean. I can put that link in the chat, or I can send it. Who should I send it to, James? And you can send it out and follow up?
Yep, that'd be fine.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. And I am seeing in the chat a few people have reached out already, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much for giving me a moment to ask that question.
And so to finish our wrap up, we gave a lot of shout outs, well deserved, to the county staff. But I also want to appreciate the providers who have been rolling with us through this whole transition and really have been stepping up to the plate to ensure that folks who we've housed do every effort we can do to make sure as a program is closed that they have a safe place to go to, and also the tight timeline. And I think the flexibility we have had to have with what PSH is and the new model with transitional housing. And so I was very excited that not only did we have new people who stepped in, but also folks who have been doing this for a while made that adjustment, because it is such a difference to go from PSH to transitional housing. So I want to appreciate everybody for your willingness and creativity and flexibility to be able to make a shift that was that was that quick and helping us to move the continuum forward and be on the roller coaster. And then we want to also welcome Alexa, and then thank you all for adding and giving us the update on the severe weather response. And so with that, I think I've got all of my pieces there. Safe and happy holidays, I think from now they start like what, October to February. There's a ton of them in between, and some I will see and some I won't, but however you celebrate during this season, may you be safe. And with that, we will adjourn. Thank you all.